Lawyer and the Ahiagba this week, you applied for a plea deal with the state on behalf of your client, Bernard Enchubochiako, Chairman Wontumi, correct?
Yes.
What was the basis for that?
I applied for initiation of plea negotiations, and I want to put it in a proper perspective, so that we have not as yet even met to commence the negotiation. But under the law, as you have rightly put there, at any point in the course of the prosecution, it is either the prosecutor himself, the court may direct, the accused person may also initiate, or the lawyer for the accused person may initiate. So all these people, I have elected to initiate.
I see.
And my
So this is section 162
yes
of Act 30. That's what you are referencing.
Yes. Act 30 as amended.
As amended.
Because this whole plea bargaining is an act itself that has been amended, attached to the original Act 30 to make it Act 30 as amended with the plea bargaining act.
So you mean Act 1079 is the current reflection of the plea bargaining act?
Plea bargaining has been annexed to the original.
I see.
And therefore, I'm coming, and my presumption is that when we commence the negotiation, we will be asking for a return of an agreement that will withdraw the charges in court, pursuant to the agreed positions of the parties.
I see.
And then this be filed before the court, for the court to adopt, and upon adoption, withdraw the matter in court, and then we are all home and dry, and then we will respond to the terms of the agreement.
I see. But Section 35 of the Court Act also has some provisions on plea bargaining,
Right.
correct?
35 of the Court Act has preconditions for the negotiation and adoption. And it is not consistent with this one.
1079.
1079.
Okay.
And in law, conflict of laws, when it happens that the two laws are conflicting, the later in time takes precedence over the earlier. And that is why we are relying on the later one, which is the Plea Bargaining Act,
which is the current reflection of the law as we have it. So subject to Section 162, and I needed to establish it before I go into it, subject to Section 162B, a person charged with a criminal offense may at any time before judgment, at any time before judgment, and the emphasis is on this point, negotiate with the Attorney General for a plea agreement.
Yes.
To reduce an offense charge to a lesser offense, B, to withdraw a charge against an accused person, or to reduce the punishment for an offense charged within the law that prescribed the punishment. And then 162B, to a plea agreement under subsection 1 may provide a sentence or a range of sentences to be recommended to the court, the payment by the accused person of compensation to a victim of the offense, or C, the making of restitution by the accused person with the prior consent of the accused person.
Right.
So
which
of the options are you really looking at? Because those who are criticizing are saying
that you must plead admission of the offense before. And those who are criticizing, and that's why I'm referring them to these provisions upon which we rely in initiating the plea agreement, our pre-negotiations. So you have rightly put it there that B says that when these are the outcomes, possible outcomes. So when we start the negotiation, it is a point of filing our terms that we will indicate which of them we have agreed to choose and which outcome we expect the court to adopt. But
in going into this plea deal, which outcome out of the many options that I've read are you?
As I told you before, our focus is on doing the deal, returning an agreement that will withdraw the charges for us to have a clean slate.
You are seeking a withdrawal of the charges against Chairman Wontumi in the Exim Bank case.
Yes, so that is the motive behind our application.
But if an agreement is reached, we'll still have to go back to the courts.
Of course.
For the courts
I mean,
to adopt.
once we are in court, before anything can be done at all, if our agreement is reached and we file it in court, it is the court that will adopt it and then return it as its judgment. So anyhow, it is the court that will make the necessary pronouncements.
If you are seeking to have all the charges dropped against your client in this plea agreement, you believe in the innocence of your client right from the get-go.
Well, it's not
Why
about
didn't you just allow the process to play out in court?
No.
Rather than resorting to this plea, though. That's another question.
This is the law.
Criticizing you.
This is the law, and the law is available to every accused person, and it is for you to elect your which of the laws you will rely on, and it is also your duty to negotiate with the intention of the outcome that you prefer, and it is also your right to rely on any of those provisions. And it is the court, and pursuant to your agreed position, which will come through the negotiated plea agreement, it is the court that will also adopt your agreement and make a pronouncement and bring finality to the whole process.
I see. But if the prosecution also says, well, you are seeking that the charges against your client be dropped, we also want your client to pay the 30 million plus interest.
Leave that one to the negotiation. It is because I don't want us to discuss the issues in detail when we have not even met. Exactly. But when we meet, then these issues will come. All these speculations in the air, most of them are incorrect. And indeed, they are even not referring to the application that I submitted. And the figures being mentioned here and there, they are nowhere in the application I submitted. But I have decided not to even concentrate or respond to them because we have not started. And I take them as speculations. So when we start, maybe we will discuss even possibilities and figures. But we haven't gotten there. So let us not preempt those meetings. And then let's see how we independently go into those discussions and see what can be negotiated on and what we bring out as agreed negotiated positions as that which we expect the court to adopt.
I see. And Labenta, bringing you on this.
Yes.
The expectation of the lawyers is that one of the outcomes, that is dropping charges against Wontumi, is what they're expecting. But then if definitely that's not going to be one that, the prosecution will also agree to.
It is not impossible. It is not at all impossible that charges will be dropped. You need to know something that in every prosecution, there is stress and costs on every side. The prosecution has to make their case beyond reasonable doubt. That is a very high level. And there's stress and costs. They have to prepare, they have to come back. And really, even though it's a state that is paying, it's a lot of money and resource. And then there's stress and cost on the side of the defense too. I mean, he has to pay his lawyers and everything that has to happen. And if you make a mistake, you are going to go to jail. Now, the thing about plea bargain is this. It is a mutual agreement which hopes to lessen...
Senior, give me 1 minute. You see, in all these negotiations, one thing that comes to mind is that it is the worst form of agreement is better than the best form of judgment. Because again, if you go into agreement and you agree on something, even though it will not be probably the best, the relationships beyond that is better than when you go to court and then you get a judgment that pronounces one as victor and the other as vanquished. It affects relationships going beyond the judgment.
I see. Okay,
yeah,
please.
He's right, but that's the assumption that you will lose. A judgment that acquits you is really very good. But the point here, the general point, is that it's tactical. It's a maneuver. It is something that, you see, when you go to court, it's warfare. You're going up against somebody. It's like war. Tactical means you take a certain, maneuver, which is usually aimed at reducing cost on both sides and the potential liability, stress, cost, resources, etc. It is not an admission of guilt. So note, there are plea bargains which are no guilt bargains.
Yes, especially this one.
Okay. There are plea bargains to which are admissions of guilt, okay, and it leads to reduced sentence. And both of them, even if the guilt is admitted, does not mean the person is guilty. Let me give you an example. It happens a lot in the US. Because there's something they call systemic racism. If you're a black man and you are put before a court on certain charges, the statistics show that the chances that you will be convicted are very high, even depending on where you are. So there are people who sometimes have not committed a crime, but they are arrested and put before court. Now, if they go through the trial, they are looking at 15 years in jail. But if they admit what they haven't done, they are looking at 2 years.
And sometimes you don't even have to admit.
Yes, sometimes that's no guilt.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm talking about the guilt one. No guilt is one thing, but this is the more difficult one, where you haven't committed a crime, but you actually admit the guilt. Because you have a system where 90% of the people who are put before court in this area, okay, on this charge, end up, in jail. And if you go through the trial, you are looking at 15 years.
You take that as insurance.
If you admit, even though you haven't done it, 2 years you go in, you are out. So I'm saying this is one of the legal tactical maneuvers that lawyers and their clients have to look at, especially in the case of Wontumi, where there is a financial.
No, please. Yes, go ahead.
Especially in the case of Wontumi, where there's a financial issue here. It says, oh, you went to take this loan, and they'll be accused of some, all kinds of things around it. And it's money. At the end of the day, I'm not saying this is what they are saying, but at the end of the day, instead of going through 2 years of trial and whatever it is, if I can pay you the money, okay, let's sit there and see what we can do about it. And I'm not talking about the details of it, but I'm saying these are some of the things that we think about. Now, Wontumi can choose to go through the trial, assert his innocence, and actually come out innocent. He can also go through the trial found guilty, but can also save everybody and just pay the money and go away. Now, in the interest of the state, if Wontumi is convicted and put in jail for 10 years, and we feed him, clothe him, give him free medical care and everything, and still the state doesn't get anything, in a sense we have lost. Right. Even though there's a justice aspect of it. Okay. But also for Wontumi, if he goes into jail for, let's say, 10 years or whatever it is, maybe if he spends the 10 years working, he will make more money than what he's paying. So why there is money at stake? That's why even in criminal matters, there's restitution, there are all these plea bargain things, so that at least you can get some money back, okay, and then find a way, that is mutually acceptable. So people should understand it in the term that it's not an admission of guilt, except Wontumi and his lawyer agree that, okay, we are guilty. And then they all come out with a situation where it's mutually beneficial. I remember in the recent past, there was a huge uproar about one of those things happening. I won't mention the names. But it was because of a misunderstanding, and people thought that it was the rich people getting scot-free. No. There is always mutual benefit on both sides whenever there's a plea bargain. And if the plea bargain is unconscionable, or it is something that is beyond the pale, the judge can refuse it. So know that the state is always protected, first by the prosecutor, who is an employee of the state, and two, by the judge, who is looking at the bigger justice issue. All right? So it's a proper thing.
And three, the accused person's rights.
Oh, well, yes. But you
see, and Mr. Ahiagba, on that particular point, it's an important point that Mr. Benton makes about how this is interpreted and then the possible outcome. Because the politics of things as well as play, and I'm sure that's why you referenced what the outcome means and how that impacts on both parties. Because you have one section...
the conflict of law situation and precisely, the earlier law that is known to the public, that is what is confusing
that
them
if
to
you're
understand
going in a
that
plea deal, you have to plead guilty.
Yes.
That's what you are being criticized. That if you really believe in the innocence of your client, why are you going on a plea deal? Because that's an admission of guilt.
Which is what I'm explaining.
That is the misinformation to the public. You understand? But I have not responded to that because then you waste too much time in your responses. But once there is an existing law upon which I will rely in my plea negotiations, I will just pay attention to and focus on what I'm doing.
Oh, but you should educate the public because you have the chance.
No, that is what we are doing. In fact, many times when I have had the opportunity, I have also given that indication. The last time I was on your sister station, I brought even the law to read the sessions to align with what we are doing. That is what we are doing. You understand?
This morning.
That is what we are doing. But if you are not careful, You spend all the time responding to.
I think the matter is clear, and that's why I'm bringing the politics of things, because the director of communications of the MPP and majority of those who are criticizing hold on. Are members of the MPP who believe who believe that what you have done is an admission of guilt. They would have rather you go on to the end of this particular the legal conclusion of this case.
Yes.
Instead of rather coming in with the plea deal. Yes.
Alfred, I have maintained, I think in the same day this came out, that and I said that it's not an admission of guilt. The law is there, and I think that the business of getting people to understand is important, and that's what we have done here. And Kofi has been very clear in saying that it's not admission of guilt. My senior has said so, so it is clear.
Yes.
Okay, it is clear. Now, even so, it's still under sub judice the matter.
Yes, so we won't go into it.
But I'm just saying that
I'm very mindful of it.
Yes. So the look and feel of this Wontumi matter, if you take it and strictly put it in a straitjacket, and you want to see if this is a classic corruption case, it doesn't really stand up to that test. But meanwhile, because it's political, you talk about it that way. Because one private person goes to take a loan to do A, B, C, D, and that is transactional matter. Yes, it's transactional matter. But I'm happy about the explanation of the lawyer in telling us what option he's going for. As part of the plea bargain, the options he has is looking for a withdrawal. Is that not the case?
Yes,
Which then is not the same as you're going to admit guilt and all. And the reason I was saying that if you look at this case with the Exim Bank, it's not your classic corruption case, because it's a transaction. You can say now in this matter that, look, I owe the bank and I will pay. That's it. Where's the crime? You understand? So I think that since it is an evolving matter, let's allow for them to engage with the state, have whatever agreement they can have, and then we'll live with the facts. If not for want of news, if not for want of good political, happenings for the government, this is not a matter to be discussed, because it's premature.
Yes.
Well,
I'm coming. Not you.
But we need to educate the public.
Yes, but I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
It's the angle of the conversation.
No, I'm coming. I'm not blaming you for putting it out. I'm blaming the NDC because this is supposed to be a conversation between the lawyers.
To invite them to think like.
Oh no, but LBG has his name, and then when I say NDC, you'll come in when I refer to it.
Don't invite them.
But you see, so this is supposed to be a conversation between the lawyers. But because the NDC wants to appear as if they are fighting corruption, they quickly want to leak this to the media, and we are discussing a premature issue. It's a premature matter. So let's wait, let them go, have the conversations, and then what agreement they get to, then we would have a conversation about that. But for me, if you ask me, this is not your classic corruption issue, but the NDC having failed abysmally in dealing with corruption relative to their people, they are trying to just scatter around and bring things to say so and so and so. Now they are rationalizing for us, Alfred, they are rationalizing for us that it is okay to give bail to somebody who jumped bail earlier. But you allow LPG to go to GN Bank when we have not even brought it for conversation.
It was just a response to what Mr. Vento
So
said.
let me say. So what I'm saying is that this matter is premature. Oh no, we are not explaining. You are the one explaining. So I'm just saying that this Wontumi case, I think the conversation before us is premature.
Okay.
Let's leave it here. The real matter to be discussed when they reach some agreement will come, and then we'll engage it.
Yes, just 1 minute. In fact, in this matter, there are people who are accusing me variously, and there is somebody who is even saying that I'm fighting with a flag bearer of NPP, and the wife is insulting me. I have not seen the wife the whole year.
You haven't seen Samira Bawumia?
I haven't seen Samira the whole year.
What? No, what has...
I have not.
What has that got to do with anything? It's not her character to insult, so just ignore it. It's not, just ignore it.
There is somebody says that he hasn't won a case ever in his life.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago, I took a very beautiful judgment in my favor. Even 2 days ago, there was this.
You should come and see your car that you bought.
Oh, please.
You don't have to indulge that matter.
So let's be assured that we will do it when it is right.
Thank you.
And we have done it many times before. And I have had commendations from even Supreme Court judges.
You don't have to prove yourself. I mean, your record is out there.
I'm sorry.
Lawyer and the Ahiagba is known to be a good lawyer.
No.
That has never been in doubt.
Yes.
But you see, as lawyers, sometimes we pick cases that are difficult.
Yes.
They are just difficult. And like I always say...
And we do our best.
Yes. And I always say, you see, we are professionals. You want to provide the best of professional care.
Service to your clients.
It's just like somebody not well, emergency situation, the person is rushed to the hospital. The doctor will try everything based on the Hippocratic oath or whatever they call it, to try to give life back to the person. I have always maintained that the doctor is next to God. After that, then the lawyer. Then we are going. So there are three noble professions. Medicine.
Please.
You're getting yourself into a bind.
I said, oh, wait.
Who told the lawyer?
Calm down. There are three.
Just 1 second, calm down.
There are three noble.
You see the things we have been suffering. See the thing we are suffering.
There are three noble professions: divinity, medicine, and law. That's not in doubt. Okay. Later we'll come. But you let me go to the substantive matter. I think that we shouldn't confuse a few things. You see, the Attorney General investigators have investigated a matter. The matter that they have investigated, they have come to a conclusion that where they sit and the evidence they have, there has been a commission of a crime. And that crime is a crime of fraud. Now, based on their painstaking investigation, they have formulated criminal charges, I think about 4 counts of fraud against Mr. Bernard Kpebu Siako, also known as Chairman Wontumi. Now, from where the prosecution sits, the kind and the quality of evidence that they have is enough to ensure that the court will come to the conclusion that there had been wrongdoing. That is the view of the prosecution. Now, defense led by Malene Senior and the Ahiagba is also of the opinion that no, in fact, you applied for bail for him.
Yes, I did.
Which bail was admitted.
Yes.
He's on bail. One of the fundamental principles of law is the presumption of innocence. In fact, it is on the basis of that presumption that you anchor a bail application. Rightly so, like we always say, facts put before the court do not constitute evidence unless admitted in evidence. But at this material moment, there had been an extraordinary step that had been taken, also founded by law. That is a plea negotiation, a kicked in. Now, you see, there are 2 schools of thought on these matters. That a smart accused person, knowing that when convicted for a charge of fraud, the maximum sentence may be even up to 15, 20 years, can say that, you know what is it? It's about money. The whole fraud ends up with money. So you know what? I want to give you the money back. But that does not also claim the fact that there's an allegation of fraud. So usually 2 schools of thought. That the mere fact that you, the accused, have initiated that process means that you know that your chance of survival are very low. And therefore, the smart thing for you to do under the circumstance is to water down. That's one school of thought.
The other one.
Another school of thought is the opinion that, well, you know what, to save all of us our time. And you know, usually, when discoveries are done, and you see the weight of evidence that is coming against you. I'm coming. But you see, you went through the criminal investigative process. So you definitely will know what was on earth. We know where the dead bodies are. Defense and prosecution. And so you come to the conclusion and say, you know what? This trial is going to be fully documentary. What is the anchor of the prosecution case of fraud? Maybe I did some documentation, I made some representation, they are documentary in nature, my signatures are all over the place. If these things are admitted in evidence, it may create problem for me. So let me do a plea. At least it will water down the potential impact on this.
And of course, the courts are national institutions.
Yeah.
And the presence of a lawyer in court makes you an officer of the court.
Yes.
So sometimes, in a national situation like that, in the interest of national reconciliation and national progress,
Senior.
Sometimes
Senior, you have made your point. You can come in with a short rebuttal. Senior, the point
you were given opportunity to speak.
What foul? I told him some of
the decisions you take in the national interest.
Okay. You see, the most important thing is that the issue of national interest should not even come here.
Oh, please.
Prosecution is a public policy tool. It's to achieve a certain outcome. Look, what was the NDC's promise? Operation Recover All Loots. Recovering of loot may come with other consequences, but the primary focus is to recover the loot. And so if there's an avenue to recover that loot, first of all, it serves the public good, one. If there are other consequences that flows, it's an added on. And so where I sit, and I'll tell you an example. When myself and my senior were representing now Attorney General in the ambulance matter, the company, Big C, offered to take the ambulances back. Listen carefully. Take the ambulances back and refund the state, the money to the state.
You mean the finance minister now?
Yeah, the current finance minister. Yeah. But guess what happened? When Big C offered to refund the money and take the ambulances, the state said, unless they see Ato forcing, they won't allow.
Unless they see Ato?
Yes.
But Ato was in Ghana.
No, when I say see, unless he's part of the plea, they won't. And we as lawyers for Ato, we say we have a solid case. He is clean, as white as snow. So we are not going to be part of any plea. And that is why you notice that the plea in the Ato matter never worked. Because even though Big C offered to take their ambulances back and refund the money, the Republic said, what?
Yeah, but BC was a party to the suit.
No, I'm coming.
Was it a party?
No. Senior, I'm coming, please.
Because the law is explicit.
The point at that time was that they said, Big C, you are the ultimate benefit. The money went to Big C.
Yes, but was Big C charged?
I'm just coming. Big C.
No, I'm trying to correct him in the law.
No,
the law identifies the people who can come to court.
No, Big C, Japa was the agent.
We should stop this.
So, in the course of that matter, the point I am making is that Ato and his lawyers took a principled position that I am clean. I did no wrong. I am not going to be part of any plea. Simple. And so that is why people are saying that, if in the past somebody can take...
I need to correct you on this. Because the law doesn't allow any third party to jump in with an application for plea. The law doesn't allow that.
The law has identified the people.
So there was no application for plea. There was no. In the case of Big C.
No, there was. I was a lawyer in the matter. What are you talking about?
So who made the application?
Who was the agent of Big C?
But was he charged?
Yes, Richard Jakwa was the second accused. Senior, what are you saying?
He was the second accused.
That's all. That's why I said you should hold on.
You relax.
Relax.
As a company couldn't appoint him.
Relax. Today I've been very charitable to you. I've been very charitable. Where I had planned going,
yes,
it's okay. You let me just make my point. So my point is simple. When you take that step, it sends a message. And so the people who say that it is because you have seen the potential, that is why you've taken this extra, you can't blame them.
you can't.
You can't blame them.
That because you are saying that Wontumi will lose the case?
Yes,
that's why
you see,
gone for this
it's an opinion they are entitled to. They may be wrong.
You mean out of ignorance?
It cannot be out of ignorance. Yeah. Because these are, you see, what the plea agreement had come, what it shows is that at least the Attorney General has a case that is defendable. Contrary to the initial claim that this is quote-unquote witch hunting or what have you, this extraordinary step creates or gives credence to the fact that at least there's some modicum, of evidence to suggest a certain wrongdoing. If not, you don't take this extraordinary step. But you see, I have always said that one of the innovative interventions in Act 30 is this issue about plea. Again, like I said, all the work I've done is through criminal defense. These things usually come to help us as defense lawyers. It will save you time, it will save you cost, it will save you everything. And sometimes I think that usually these things are highlighted only because they involve prominent people. Do you know the number of plea deals that are done every day? Thousands of them. In fact, somebody can do an RTI to the Attorney General to find out from the time of the amendment of Act 30 to now, how many plea agreements have been done? Countless number of them. In fact, I was in court on many instances where plea, basic stealing, he has stolen from his boss, he had done this. The
ones that involve politically exposed persons.
That is what comes to the headline. But you see, this law has helped ordinary citizens of this country without the usual highlights.
Okay.
I strongly believe that consistent with the NDC campaign promise and aura, if at the end of the day, the allegation is that X amount of money could not have passed, but for this false representation, on that basis, you are bringing the money back. It is consistent with the oral principle.
See. Thank you. Now,
just a quick question. A quick question. Then he can answer. So, is it?
We speak before.
No, question.
Sorry. No.
I'm going to
question. So the question I want to ask is that, this Wontumi case, me, the way I see it, and Edward, I just want to listen, and then Senior too. I don't see it as a classic corruption case.
Yes.
The bank itself could have sued him. The bank, Exim Bank. Yes, they can do that. Right?
They sued.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Sued.
So we could have just gone on that path.
The
banks
sued and we responded and they withdrew.
So that has already been done.
So I'm saying that. So that path would have just been because then so that the whole business of this is a corruption.
Let's not go into
I'm mindful of the boundaries of our conversation.
Senior Andy, because this is a live matter. And because of the borderline of contempt among others, we are limiting ourselves for now to the plea negotiation,
which is,
and at this critical moment, that determination is permissible by law.
Okay.
Enter into it.
Now,
that law has also benefited ordinary people.
My only intervention is just how we're trying to make it a corruption.
Reason why
I don't think it is in the true sense. It's not a corruption.
It's the matter of the withdrawal of his services as a lawyer, and you tied into this. That's why I wanted.
Okay.
Counsel, you have always been for the recovery part of whatever oral cases are being tried now. That you would prefer, if there's any financial consideration in any case, that should be the focus. Recover the money and before anything else, correct?
Absolutely, Sir Kansi. Yeah. Absolutely, because what shall it profit a man to throw somebody in jail and then he doesn't give us one farthing so that he keeps all the money? Looking at our state of development, the way hospital with our beds, I still can't believe the Afariwa hospital has not been opened, etc. I would take the money any day and possibly with some interest so that we can get beds and other equipment to open Afariwa hospital. And it will save more lives than just throwing one person in custody or in jail. No, let's not forget this, and ADG made part of the point. After assuming best case scenario, Wontumi is able to get a withdrawal of the charges, that will not be the end of the accountability. After that, I can come and sit on TV3, and then when any matter concerning Wontumi comes up, I'll say, Wontumi who held our money illegally for some years and finally had to be coerced to pay more or less after MPP left office. If MPP hadn't left, he was never going to return it, etc. So Wontumi who illegally kept the taxpayers' money, etc. So the point I'm making is that we'll continue to name and shame him, stigmatize him for the rest of his life, and it will even affect his family. So that is punishment enough.
I see.
I keep saying that nowadays we don't see it on air that much. But when we were growing up, one thing a lot of parents used to tell children was that, hey, if you get any police case, no woman will marry you, etc. So to date, you still find vestiges of it in our society. For such a case, returning the money, the stigma Wontumi will suffer. So for me, the value is the same. The value is the same.
See, but Council, how do you respond to those who also say that, well, you prefer that monies should be recovered as a preference over and above, throwing people in jail? But then again, will that be enough deterrence and punishment for those who divert state funds for private use or are engaged in acts of corruption, that you can take state funds, use it for whatever purpose, and when it's time for accountability, all you're asked to do is just refund the money, and go scot-free? Is that enough deterrence to corruption?
Absolutely.
Really?
I'll tell you, 150%. That's my opinion. Let's go back. So I can say, let's begin to count the cases. Look at Atuesian's case. You see that case, he paid part of the money. Then they said there was some land. I don't know what happened. Long story short, if we had pursued the land, etc., I keep saying that money, we're going to be due more than 10 million Ghana, right? Or thereabout. You know what that would have done? And I keep saying, so you think today, Atuesian is free? He's not free. There are certain transactions he cannot go near. For the rest of his life, he's stigmatized. Stigmatized, even talking, I leave out the conviction, but I mean the part he repaid the money. So I want us to remember how the ADG is referred to the Gyampo case where Godfrey Dami was caught doing the unethical things. You see how the unethical things influenced him to refuse the money, and in the end we lost. If we had received the 2.4 million Big C was offering, no, it's not Ghana cedis, so euros. Initially they said 2.1 million, right? And yes, they were willing to go up. You know what that would have done? So I'm telling you that for me, and not just me, other people, a lot of people think like me. When you take the money back, it doesn't mean the person is innocent. Okay. We will make the point, minimum. You illegally took government money, and years later, but it was a change in government that enabled us to collect it from you. And for some people, they will even call it a conviction. So the value is the same. Let's start one day at a time. Look at all the monies we've lost. And then you remember when the Dufour matter came up, a lot of people were on Dr. Ayini's neck, saying no, he shouldn't accept. The 60%. Hey, anyway, can we have an update about how much the Dufours have paid? Because I think we're promised that there will be an update so that we see that the money has really been collected. Look at that plenty money. You know what it will do for our society? What do you benefit? You think the Dufours are free? They are not free because it's also a stigma. It's a bloat on their record. It's a dent. It's forever, etc. So I think let's take it one day at a time. When we are done with the recoveries, maybe by the time we finish collecting, let's say recovering maybe state money in 100 cases, we can then review to see whether it is a deterrence enough or not. But right now we need the money. Look, let's give this last example. You see the Donald Trump this organization, President Trump, in the US, his organization, the Trump organization, they had to agree to go and do plea bargaining, etc. Trump, President of the US, his organization had to agree to do plea bargaining. And let's understand, one of our most popular cases on plea bargaining started in the 70s, the Ohinijan case. And my apologies to the family of Ohinijan, the sports administrator. His name is similar to Ohinijan, the lawyer, the Sunyani-based lawyer in the 70s, who was involved in murder, but he had to plead to manslaughter. So that's one, when you go to law school, that's one of the cases they'll teach you from the 70s.
Yes.
Ohinijan, the lawyer, had to accept manslaughter because it was clear that he probably would have been convicted for what? Murder.
Murder.
So the point is that we've always had plea bargaining. From the 70s, then you go to our Courts Act, Section 73, allows for settlement of minor cases. Then Section 35, economic crimes against the state. This my good friend and mentor, Samson Ladiayen, has written a beautiful article. It's online. You can Google it. Samson Ladiayen's article on plea bargaining. You see how he explains it. So when you check globally, plea bargaining is used everywhere. For me, knowing the weakness of the Ghanaian system, half a loaf is always better than none.
Okay,
Let's not forget the cases Dr. Ayeni had to enter noli prosequi, withdraw, etc. As for the Atufosin and Ahiagba case, we know that Godfrey Dami was caught in unethical practices, so that's an exception. Opuni case exception. But I'm interested in the Collins Dowda matter. That one, Dr. Ayeni promised us that the committee will be set up to investigate so that we will see whether we are due some money. So that one to remind him, we are waiting to see has the committee been set up, what is the investigations, so that we will see whether the Sagleme project, we got value for money, or Collins Dowda and co have to refund some money. It's very important. We must get closure on it. So you see, I'm very interested in any money. Once I hear there will be an investigation, then there is a chance that money will come up. You see, I'm reminding citizens and Dr. Ayeni that we are waiting
exactly.
for the
Now, the point that you made is why I bring in Prof. Gyampo about, the effect of refund. And I'm sure you heard this, that those who hold the view that if you have somebody who has diverted state funds and the only punishment is just to refund and go scot-free, refund with interest, how deterring will that be in the fight against corruption?
First of all, nobody is privy to the content or the nature of the plea bargaining arrangements. And so we cannot sit here and say that it's going to be about refund and go scot-free. In 2008, when I was studying in the United States, I believe, I recall, I undertook a course called Judicial Politics, where we, as part of that course, studied plea bargaining. And the lawyers here may tell me if I'm wrong. When I knew we were going to discuss this, I had to go and exhume. I still keep my lecture notes. So a plea bargaining is an agreement in the criminal justice system where a defendant agrees to plead guilty or no contest in exchange for concessions from the prosecution, such as reduced charges or a lighter recommended sentence. It resolves the case without going to trial. Now, when I read this, I was asking myself, but if this definition is true, should it be anything that should bother us as a people? Should it worry us? I say this because having heard so many people having heard a hint at plea bargaining, you could see that they were upset. There are some people who say that, well, it's good. But there are others who just on a mere hint about this are getting very much upset. But my view is that we do not, to the extent that we do not know the content of the negotiation or what the negotiation is going to end at, we cannot be that upset, because it could be that refund the money but still serve a certain sentence, of jail term. It can be.
That could be a possible outcome.
It can be a possible outcome. So we are not too sure unless we allow them to go negotiate and come out with an outcome that we can properly interrogate. But you can also understand where those who are incensed, those who are upset about the mere hinting of plea bargain, you can understand where they are coming from. You recall that there used to be a law on causing financial, there's a law on causing financial loss to the state. And as a researcher, I researched it and I researched the intention or the reason why it was introduced. Mm-hmm. If you ask those who mooted that idea, see, they will tell you that yes, some people will deliberately go out of their way to act in a manner that causes financial loss to the state. But the law itself, if you really want to implement it, then it is going to, at a point in time, stifle initiative. Because everybody is going to be cautious that, look, I don't want to do anything over-cautious. And so I have interrogated or interviewed those who mooted that law. And they told me that that law itself was never meant to be used. It was... it was never meant to be used, but it was supposed to be there ominously guarding the conduct of duty bearers to be sure that you see that law is there and it guides you to do what is right. Unfortunately, power changed hands and Mr. Kufuor used it against the former appointees, the law on causing financial loss to the state. So quite a number of former appointees were jailed. Now, President Kufuor left office, President Mills came, and people who were very much upset felt that the same standard should be extended. The same punishment or jail sentences should be handed over to former MPP appointees. And you call. If you don't know, I'm telling you, I researched that too. President Mills then said no. In fact, one of the reasons why President Mills had problems with Jerry Rawlings was his posture about prosecuting former appointees of the previous regime. He said, no, let us build a nation. Let us not do that. Let us not do vengeance. And I want to be a father for the nation. And so I'm not going to do that. So post-President Mills, a lot of people were bragging, if we were corrupt, why didn't we jail us? If we were corrupt, why didn't we jail? President Mills did that. President Mahama came to continue and followed that same tangent. Then MPP came to power again. And then we saw so many things happening.
Alfred.
Now,
Alfred,
having all these things...
He's a researcher.
No. So many things happen.
A researcher means what? What is research? What is that?
No, in a manner that made people...
What is research about that?
In a manner that made people...
Alfred,
please continue with your research.
In a manner that made people feel... See, so many things have happened in a manner that made people feel that, look, something would have to be done, otherwise the survival of our democracy cannot be guaranteed. And I'm sure this fed into the whole idea of Operation Recover or Loot, and the need to deal with people who may have done things untoward to the resources of the nation and who may have found themselves, in corrupt deals. Now, so my view is that you can then begin to appreciate the sentiments that are being expressed just at the mere hinting of plea bargaining. But my advice is that you see, sometimes our brutish nature, sometimes our naturally brutish nature would prevent us from looking at some of these things dispassionately. My view is that, and as has been said, if the idea of if there is a policy called Operation Recover or Loot, then I would appeal to Ghanaians that, yes, you may be angry. Yes, and let us not forget that the man in question at the center of affairs has other issues that that are being handled, at the courts. This particular matter is just one of about 3 or 4 issues that are also being handled, about him at the court. And so if today the lawyer says that he's entering into plea bargain negotiation just so that if some monies will have to be refunded, they'll be refunded, and just so that they can also go into other discussions as to what should happen, then we should be more interested in what should happen in the negotiation. But I'm saying that a mere talk about plea bargaining, that's not necessarily, it's not only about refund and go. Okay. It could also mean refund and still serve a certain minimal jail sentence. And so I want us to look at it from that angle, so that those people who are genuinely and legitimately upset that, look, things would have to happen in a manner that will ensure that tomorrow, if duty bearers are given a position to serve, they will be cautious. I mean, I agree with them. And we'll have to respect that. And these are the guys, the Ghanaians who are always saying that oral is delaying, oral is then putting a lot of pressure. And so when they are putting a lot of pressure, and there are cases before courts that are being heard, and they are still putting a lot of pressure, and they hear that there is a hint at plea bargaining, then naturally they become a bit offended. But I'm saying that we should be creatures of logic, not always creatures of emotions. Let's look at what we can gain, what we can benefit, especially as we prosecute Operation Recover All Loss, all loot. Let us see what we can gain from this negotiation. And if the negotiation ends in just, refund and go, and we don't like it, then we can interrogate it. But I'm thinking that as we make our views clear about some of these things, Ghanaians are also listening.
That you reference of interest. And the other one, Kpebu. Yes. Within the week, you filed a motion to withdraw your services as a lawyer for Chairman Wontumi.
Yes, right? yes.
Now, the state says, no, hold on. The state says that it is objecting to your motion on notice for withdrawal of your legal services.
Well, they have a right to object. I have not been served with an affidavit of opposition. I'm served with same. And the matter is coming on Monday, but as I speak now, I haven't been served with any such application.
But Alfred, I wasn't done with I was not done. You just cut me in this.
Yes. I was respond to it. Because, Prof, I've checked the time. You spoke.
So,
but I'm not done.
Yes.
My good friend Kofi just said can do that. But since the abolition of the slave trade, I'm not sure anybody could be forced into labor.
Absolutely.
So I have been engaged by somebody, and I said that I cannot continue in this engagement.
No, senior, you see, not you.
I checked the time.
All of you don't intervene. All of you don't intervene. Let me go on. So now I have filed this application for leave to withdraw my legal services to my client, and it's coming on Monday. So I think that my reasons for this decision is embedded in the affidavit in support. You have just told me that the state has filed affidavit in opposition.
You haven't seen?
I have not been served, or I have not seen. And if I do, I see it, and I go to the court, I will address it. I will respond to the issues they are raising therein. But I think that I have a right at any point in time to withdraw services that I offer to anybody. Sometimes even at cost, if I'm in contract and I cannot continue with the contract, and that brings in reparation or restitution. The decision to withdraw, I think I can enjoy that, and this is what I have done. And I have stated my reasons in the middle of the season.
They give the grounds for the objection. They talk about jurisdiction and the capacity and the standard.
Yes.
Essentially. These are the two.
I haven't seen, but for educational purposes, you are telling me that they are going to argue an objection relying on jurisdiction of the court. What does it mean? Does the court not have jurisdiction to determine a motion I have filed in the case that I'm prosecuting? Is that what they are saying? Well, then this is not directed at me.
Anyway.
This is not directed at me. It's probably directed at the court. Yeah. So the court will determine whether or not they have jurisdiction.
But there are fundamental issues.
But again, local standard, capacity and local standard. Indeed, capacity means the shape and form that you present yourself in the case, or your interest in the subject matter, that is local standard. But all of them come into one to make capacity an issue.
But Senior, I want to ask a question, just for education.
Let him finish.
So capacity as a lawyer, I have also filed as appointed lawyer in the case. And when you are a lawyer in the case, there are requirements. Your license, your so and so, you state all that in the whatever application you bring. Is it the case that I don't have a license? Is it the case that my license has expired, that somebody is challenging? Is it the case that I am not a lawyer at all, that somebody is challenging? And then let's go to local standard. Local standard is, do I have any interest in the matter? Do I not have interest in the matter? Does that matter concern me? It doesn't concern me. That is local standard. And I'm saying that having been appointed a lawyer in the case, how could I sit somewhere and say that the matter doesn't concern me?
Okay, thank you.
Advocacy on behalf of
no, gentlemen. I needed him to speak to
that
this.
Is my answers to those.
I need to deal with this last issue before we go. No.
And these are questions
but I think that for fairness sake, because he's the lawyer on record, and you have respectfully given him that opportunity to just raise some of these fundamental. I think it's important.
So, I've been asking to respond to Gyampo for a long time.
Just by way of public,
the opportunity.
Just by way of public.
But you, why?
You see,
what exactly are you responding?
No, I'm just responding to
giving
something.
No.
He's giving the opportunity to Edwin again. He just finished speaking. On this matter, I spoke like 2 minutes because you have the lawyer here, so I didn't want to.
I'll come to you to end.
No, but you have gone back to him again.
This platform is for informing education. This platform.
So what's the issue exactly?
The issue I want to just draw to your attention is that the work of us as lawyers is governed by PLEA 2423. That's the legal profession, into bracket, professional conduct and etiquette rules.
My brother, that
2020. No, the new one. This is the 2021. I'm talking about. Please, I'm talking about
a lawyer wants to exit and it's become a national competition. Why do we waste our time on this?
Hold on.
It's personal decision to not to represent somebody.
I want to just represent.
That's a national decision.
Public education. Why are you jittery?
No. A lawyer says, I don't want to represent my
regulation. I just want to draw your attention.
We want to make it a national competition.
I just want to draw your attention to.
Kofi Benson.
I just
He's being disruptive.
Regulation 85.
Am I crazy here or what?
Conditions.
We are looking at a country where people don't have jobs.
Being disruptive.
The point is making is extremely proper.
Yes.
Conditions for withdrawal of representation. I am just saying that. Let nobody make the law here that withdrawal of representation is automatic. It has never been. In fact, so the rules, Regulation 85(1)
In the middle of the sea.
provides conditions for withdrawal. So when a lawyer purports to say that I want to withdraw my representation,
it's a crime for somebody to represent somebody
in the middle of the sea.
and that is why if you require recently in the Supreme the Supreme Court at the Supreme Court. If you
why are we interested in this?
Richard,
there are other matters. You can't short the LG seminar matter, which is material to the state. And you are discussing a private decision.
If you recall, recently,
I
think Godfrey Debu Adami in the Get to Talk on matter.
He wrote it.
What is the consequence of this? What is the consequence
for the sense of representation for
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What is the consequence of his action not to represent Wontumi? What is the consequence?
There's a message which I wanted Professor Gyampo to respond because
I said the Supreme Court didn't allow a withdrawal.
Yes, so now in this case, what is the consequence?
Why
not the value of this to the state that we are seated here? What is it?
Your colleague Professor Emmanuel Kpebu is asking says I want to find out if hold on says I want to find quickly I want to find out why Professor Gyampo went on to take this award that has become a matter of controversy.
So you still don't want to give me
the
time.
third issue I wanted to deal with. So you quickly. And now...
And you see why when I interrupt and I insist I must address... Prof. Gyampo raised a matter which is completely not the fact. You allow him to go.
No,
he's creating the impression that President Atta Mills came and gave a certain regime. No, because that is why. But you told me
that would go back.
That is a fallacy. That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. You understand? Because you no, please. When you do this next time, I will not let him carry on. Because now you don't want me to make the point. It is wrong what he said, and it's not factual. Trying to say that the NDC and our males didn't prosecute anybody because what? So it means that they watch the law breached. It means that they condone corruption. Is that what you are saying? Is that what you are alleging? So it means that you condone corruption.
Hold on. Now,
you condone corruption.
Are you in pain?
No, because that is wrong.
You have made.
It is wrong.
You have now rebutted and made your point.
It is not true.
Thank you.
So
how did you end up on that stage? I mean, how did your representatives end up on that stage?
Well, Alfred, please. The president has given a directive.
Abanapo has received that award.
No, let me.
Hold on.
That's my understanding. That is a credible platform.
Let's.
So you to allow him to speak.
Let me.
That's a credible
The president
platform.
has given a directive on this, but you see, it is true that our performance is supposed to be judged by our appointing authority, and then also by the good people
Of Ghana.
including
the institutions.
Okay, and so if an institution gets up and says that, look, we want to honor you for doing X, Y, Z, ideally, you wouldn't look at them and then just say we snubbed you. Okay. I was not in the country, and I was told that our institution was nominated for an award, but it must be placed on record that some of these award agencies, when they are coming to you, they write 2 letters. One, we've nominated you for this. And then so they will ask you, if you want your company's profile to be written in our brochure, if you want us to give you a space to advertise your wares or what you do, if you want to receive special mentions at the event, pay this amount of money. And so we get those things. But in this particular instance that we are talking about, well, speaking because you directed it at me, we didn't go and pay anything. Our people went in there, and then they said they are being nominated for an award, and then there was no payment at all. And I want to make this point also, that the insinuation that some people went to pay money for it. I mean, I didn't do it, we didn't do it, but I also look at the people in the personas of Finance Minister to Forsen. It is so condescending and unfair for anybody to insinuate that, oh, then he also went to pay money for that. I know his work and what he stands for, I think, is known to many Ghanaians, and so I'm not sure he wouldn't do that. But all in all, I think we all can take solace in the fact that there's been a presidential directive. As you rightly said, these schemes have always been there. And anytime they came, you didn't have anybody.
So these are the criteria that the presidency is using.
There's a directive that says that.
Apparently, it was an application to discontinue suits in terms of the Asifua one.
Okay.
But just to let you know, to the extent that Dr. Callistus Mahama has written, it brings conclusion to the matter.
And so for
what the president says is final.
For us, we would go by what the president has said.
Yeah, that's all.
And since what you are doing here, defending finance minister and all of that, the Ghanaian people's verdict says that you have not performed. That's what it is. Because you say you say
the MPP of Darocha, Sakiskek, Victor Wusu, Kofi Buzia, Professor Edubuahe, Alajete, J.A. Kufuor, those men of value, those men of integrity are not what we have today. I tell you without mincing words, the 5 people who are contesting, wanting to be flag bearers, are just sankwas. I tell you without mincing words, the 5 people who are contesting, wanting to be flag bearers, are just sankwas. I tell you without mincing words, the 5 people who are contesting, wanting to be flag bearers,